Hello everyone, this is Adam Morris with lonestarball.com, and I'm checking in with you with our very last spring training update for the Rangers of the spring training season or period or whatever you want to call it. And today we're going to look at 5 things that we took away from spring training this year with the Rangers. Number 1, Yu Darvish is really good. And we're using him for as number 1 because I think Yu Darvish is going to be a number 1 starter, and of course he wears uniform number 11. And that's 2 1s. I guess we could have made him 2 as a result of that, but no, 1 1. Yu Darvish is really good. I think that he is going to end up being a very good signing. Earlier in the offseason, I said I thought I would rather have C.J. Wilson for what he was paid than Yu Darvish for what it cost the Rangers. I'm off that now. I'm back on board. I'd rather have Darvish. And I'm going to go so far as to say as long as he's healthy over the time period that he signed with Texas, which is 6 years, with the possibility that he's going to be able to opt out of that 6th year depending on performance. I think over either the 5 or 6 years that the Rangers are going to have him under this contract, he will be one of the 5 best pitchers in the American League, assuming that he stays healthy. Number 2. Number 2 was going to be for Robbie Ross, the 22-year-old left-hander who earned the last spot in the bullpen. You know, Ross is somebody who I know on our website caused a lot of controversy when we've talked about him. There are some people who say he's really not that good a prospect because his ceiling is limited. His ceiling is as a loogie or maybe a middle reliever or something like that. There's others who've said, hey, no, he's performed. He's a ground ball pitcher. He's got the ability to be at least a mid-rotation starter if he hits his ceiling. Well, still up in the air as to what his ceiling is, but the reality is that Robbie Ross had an outstanding spring. Evan Grant said he's hard-pressed to think of a young player who came in and had the type of spring that Ross had. And it wasn't just because of his performance, but the fact that he handled himself with poise and with confidence on the mound. He walked in here into spring training, got on the mound, and acted like he'd been here before and was ready to be a major league pitcher. It's in contrast with, say, Martin Perez, who is younger than Ross, but has more high-level experience than Ross does. Ross had only a handful of games at AA, while Perez pitched much of last season at AAA, and Perez is considered to be the better prospect, but Perez obviously didn't handle the pressure of pitching a major league camp as well, wasn't able to keep his emotions in check as well as Ross was. Ross came out there and acted like this was his 10th big league camp and earned a bullpen spot with his performance. Doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be there all season. He could come out there, struggle, end up back in the minor leagues. But I think that this spring definitely showed a lot of promise for Robbie Ross and put everyone on notice. He's somebody to take seriously. Number 3, no news is good news, and that's particularly the case on the injury front with spring training. Rangers made it through spring training with basically everyone healthy. Matt West, of course, has an elbow problem that might cost him the season. That's what happens with young pitchers. Sometimes it happens. He's in the minor league system. He wasn't expected to likely contribute this season. So in terms of its impact on the major league team, it's pretty minimal. Yoshinori Tateyama is starting the season on the DL, but even if he hadn't started on the DL, he was going to be in the minor leagues most likely anyway, and his stint on the DL is likely to be pretty short. And the Rangers have one pitcher, or one player, not just one pitcher, one player, Tateyama, who is on the DL this season. I can't remember the last time the Rangers on opening day only had one player on the Major League DL. It's amazing, and it's a very good sign right now. Number 4, also in the category of good signs, is the fact that the Rangers ended up spring training playing very well. I don't put a lot of emphasis on spring records, and the Rangers' spring record was really terrible at one point, and still by the end of spring wasn't all that great. But the good news is, while the Rangers were losing a lot of games early on in spring, they finished the spring campaign on winning a lot more than they lost. They've looked really good in these last few exhibitions. It really looks like the Rangers are hitting the ground running, ready to go, ready to get off to a really good start, something that they haven't always done under Ron Washington since he's been here. The Washington hallmark has been slow starts to the season. Hopefully this is something where this year we're going to see them get off to a fast start and put some distance between themselves and Anaheim. And then finally, number 5 is the bench. Now, to the extent there's a weakness on this team right now, it's the bench. You've got your backup catcher, you've got a utility infielder, quite honestly, his name I don't even remember just off the top of my head. I think his last name is Gonzalez. You've got Craig Gentry, who made the team despite what everybody acknowledged was a pretty awful injury-plagued spring training. He made the team because he's right-handed, and Julio Bourbon is left-handed, and really the Rangers seem to be just tired of looking at Bourbon's face. So Gentry made the team as a defensive and pinch running specialist. And then there's Brandon Snyder, who got the last bench spot, apparently because somebody had to get that last bench spot. He had a nice spring, but he also had an OPS of about 710 in AAA last year. He's pretty much a first baseman who can maybe play a little third base, who can catch for an inning or two if absolutely he has to, and who the Rangers are now trying out in left field. Although in watching the spring game that I saw just a couple of days ago when Snyder was in left field, he looked like somebody who'd played about as much left field as I have. So, you know, I think the reality is that if the Rangers make the postseason, it wouldn't surprise me if there were at least 2 or 3 players on the playoff roster on the bench that aren't currently on the opening day roster and probably aren't in the organization. Justin Maxwell, somebody to keep an eye on. The Yankees just designated him for assignment. He's a right-handed hitting outfielder who the Rangers actually drafted several years ago as a junior out of college, couldn't sign. You know, he's somebody who I could see maybe the Rangers putting a waiver claim on. They may decide they're going to give Snyder a few weeks to see if he can do something, but I think the reality is, to the extent that there's a weakness on this team, it's that the bench, once again, is somewhat lacking in depth. That being said, you know what? When you're sitting here and your biggest concern coming out of spring training is how much bench depth you have and whether the 25th guy on the roster needs to be replaced, that's what we call first place problems. So in any case, well, this is our last spring training update. We're really looking forward to the coming season, looking forward to opening day tomorrow. I'm fired up about what I am confident is going to be a great 2012 Rangers campaign. And as the season progresses, be sure to check back, as we're going to be updating our YouTube channel, Lone Star Ball channel, probably 3 or 4 times a week with video updates. Anyway, for more information, news, commentary, and reports on the Texas Rangers, check out lonestarball.com and be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more video updates.